Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna finish what we started last episode with the painter's algorithm and making the illusion of depth in our game perfect, or as perfect as we can make it. By adding some hitboxes to our objects and also buildings, we can make it look like there is almost a 3D element to our game. But before I start this episode, it's worth mentioning that there will be a lot in this episode. Make sure you got something to drink, and also remember to take some breaks here and there. Alright, let's get started. Just a quick reminder, all of the code I cover in my videos can be found on GitHub. Each episode will have its own branch. There's also a Discord server for this channel. Come in and say hello. If you wish to go the extra mile to support my work, you can do that on my Buy My Coffee page or becoming a member here on YouTube. Links can be found in the description below. Just like we always do, let's take a quick look at our current progress. Alright, so here we are. And last episode we added that painter's algorithm that makes it look like we're behind something as long as our Y position is lower. So we render it based on the Y position. But I can still walk through it, and now I'm through. And the same goes for the objects, no problem. And we have the same effect for the skeletons. Let's see if I can get someone here. Almost. Yes, there we go. So yeah, it's working, but we want to make it better. First of all, we want to make it so that you can't walk through it, and also that, let's say, the feet ends here or starts here, so the hitbox would just be this high. Then I should be able to stand here and be hidden. For example, if it comes to this object here. So that's what we're going to do today by adding hitboxes to our objects. And then based on those hitboxes, we will render it and make it look really good. So let's begin by heading over to our GameObjects class. Where do we start in order to add hitboxes to our objects here? We can just manipulate or add values to our types here. We don't use everyone, but we're gonna need hitboxes for all of them. But we can probably start with, I think, the statue angry yellow, because yeah. And in this constructor we're gonna add two things. One for the start of the hitbox, because it doesn't have to start at the very top. It most likely gonna start a little bit down. And we're gonna have another value that's gonna decide how far down the sprite, the actual hitbox, goes. Because if we only had the top, then yes, we can go behind it, but as soon as we get up to it from below and going up, we're gonna collide with it. So if the bottom of the GameObject hitbox is at the very bottom, then we can't stand in front of the GameObject. So that's why we're gonna need int hitbox roof. We can go top, but roof, yeah. And then int hitbox floor. So when it starts and going down, and this decides how far down it goes. So this value minus this value will return the actual height. So let's go ahead and add values to everything. We're gonna start playing around with this one, but we want to get rid of all the errors, so we're gonna take the old ones and paste the new values over it. And you can pause here and copy it, but I'm just adding 0, 0 to everything. And since we are testing with the angry yellow, we have the hitbox roof and the hitbox floor. So this is 11 pixels in height. So now in our game objects here, we're going to need a int hitbox roof and a hitbox floor. And we need a hitbox height, because we want to know how high the hitbox is. And the width for the hitbox is going to be as wide as the actual sprite is. So that's no problem. Then all we need to do here is to just add them. This dot hitbox roof equals hitbox roof. This dot hitbox floor equals hitbox floor. And then to calculate the height is this dot hitbox height is equal to hitbox floor minus hitbox roof. And then of course we need to add that to game constant sprite.hitbox size. No, but size. No, not size, but scale multiply. That's the one I was looking for. And now we just need to add some getters for it. So public int get hitbox height. We're gonna return hitbox height. We will also need width and hitbox roof. I'm gonna take this and paste them here. So we have our hitbox width and our hitbox roof, the actual value for it, so to speak. So yeah, now we have all the values we need in order to actually create a hitbox in our GameObject class. And in this GameObject class, we need to do a little bit of tweaking, but not that much. Right here in our entity class, we're asking for a position, width, and height. And we're still going to give it width and height and a position, but we're going to do it a little bit different. So let's go back if I can remember. There we are. Let's close down what we don't use for now. Doorway, playing, game map. Huh? All right. There we go. And the position here that we are passing along to entity is the position of the hitbox, which is not the same. So new point f, because it's a point f, we're going to say position.x. It's the same x, but the position.y is different because now we need to take into account for the object type.hitbox roof. And just add space here so easier to read. And for the width, we're going to ask for get hitbox width, which is just taking the width and multiplying it by scale multiplier. And the height, of course, is not dot height, it's get hitbox height. And that was by taking the floor minus the roof and then multiplying it by the scale multiplier. So is that all we need to do here? I think so. So now we have a new position and also new values for the size of the hitbox. Alright, so let's just test it and see if it works. And hopefully it will work. Launch successful. And I can move through it just like before because we have not taken into account the hitbox when it comes to the rendering. So let's do that quick. So in our playing class, I think is where we draw those. No, it's in Map Manager. Yeah, it's in Map Manager. Here we go. Draw objects. And the difference here is that for our left is going to be the same, but for our top here, we're gonna actually go minus GO, because that's what our GameObject is temporarily called, GO dot get object type dot get hitbox roof. And we're using minus here because it's actually the reversed because of the camera, not the actual object's position. Let's see if that looks correct. Plus camera, yes, and then plus camera. Alright, so now we should be able to move behind it and hide. And we're gone, but we are there. Perfect. And as soon as the player overlaps, I think there's the sweet spot around there, we are switching from being rendered on top to being rendered behind, based on the Y position of the player and the Y position of the hitbox. Really cool. Now let's make so that the hitbox actually collides with the player, so we can't just walk right through it. And that is gonna take place in our playing. Where are we? Is that? Here we go. And we have our can we walk here? And here, let's see, this is gonna stay the same, but I kinda wanna just move them up a little bit easier to read, because if I format, oh, that's okay. And the check is gonna happen in here. First, we're making sure that we're not outside the bounds in any way, and then we get our coordinates for all the tiles we're standing on, each corner, and then we're checking if all of those are walkable. If they're not, then return false, etc. We did this a while back. But before we even get in here, let's check our objects, if we're colliding with any objects. First, we're gonna make sure we check if game map, this one, dot get game object array list is equal to null, or rather not equal to null. Then we can check for it. And this check is used to make sure that we don't get any null errors in case this array list is empty or not used. First, we're going to loop through them all. So what do we have? We have game object, GO, and all the game objects. So game map dot get object array list, yes. We're gonna loop through all of them. And then we just want to check if the hitbox collides with the player. If it does, then return false. Then we don't need to check this. So we can return right away. So if rectf.intersects geo.getHitbox and then the player, which is hitbox that we had here, not like so, return false. And what we're doing here, we're just calling rectf, which is the hitbox we're using, and calling one of those static methods, which is intersects, taking in a rectangle A and rectangle B to check whether or not they collide or intersects. And if they do, return false, because we cannot walk there. And I think that's all the code we need for in here. Let's go back to playing, and that's just for this method, none of these. So what we can do is just comment them out, just to make sure that this works and we don't get any weird up and down movements or so. Just want to see if the collision works or not. So I can still move around, perfect, let's go up here. And it doesn't stop me from going in here. Why not? If we take a look at this hitbox, what we're forgetting here is that our hitbox does not come with the camera values right off the box, and we don't use any camera values in this array or anywhere else here. So we need a hitbox that takes this into account. And we could add the cameras for all the game objects, or take into account the camera value for all of them, or we can just do it for our player. So we make a temporary hitbox for our player. So rect f, there we go, temp hitbox is equal to, and we could do a method, but that might be a bit overkill. Let's just add it here, because what we want to do is to take the hitbox position plus whatever the delta x and y is. So it's going to look something like this. Minimize that. We have our left plus x, top plus y, right plus x, and then bottom plus y. That's simple. And we can probably take this actually and add it in this check, because we don't need a temporary hitbox if the game object array list is null. Now, should we do what? Instead of the hitbox, we're gonna ask to check it against the temporary hitbox, because now we have accounted for the camera values. So let's see, moving fine, and a little bit lag, recording, old computer, and all of that. So let's see, can I? No, it stops me. Can I? No. 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 Okay, but what's happening here then? Doink. Yeah, that looks good. I can't pass it because it's just saying no. Perfect. What about in front? Because if we didn't have the floor, we would be stuck here, but the hitbox is maybe this area right there. So I can walk up to it. This is great. This is looking really good. And all we have to do now is to add the sliding effect, because it's like glue. Doink. just can't move. So the sliding is what we need to add next. It is time to uncomment this again, but I'm gonna keep the MoveNextTo commented out because I know they're gonna cause problems if we don't, and I'm gonna get to them after this. So now we have, can I walk here up and down and left and right? So let's head over here, and this method looks very similar to the method we just worked on, if I can see it. Here, can walk here is very similar to can walk up and down because we're just checking one direction. So what do? We take this part right here, go up to walk here up and down. First we check if we're outside the bounds, then we can check for our objects. But we don't have the delta X anymore, we have current camera X, so we're just gonna change those to that. We're still trying to move in the delta Y or in the Y direction, either up or down, but in the X direction we are not. So that was up and down. Now let's do left or right. So let's just copy this one. And before the tile checking, we check for objects. So now we need delta X instead of current camera X, and then we need current camera Y instead of delta Y. And we just changed it a little bit and it should work. And now when I'm looking at it, they are so similar, these methods, that they should be able to be combined somehow. But that is a problem for future Karin to solve, not today's Karin. So let's go ahead and see how this looks. I can still walk around. I really need to get rid of that hitbox actually. Ooh, look, you can slide. How about left and right? Yes, and top, left and right, yes, and from this direction as well. Yes. And if we take a look at these objects right here, it's not allowing us. It looks weird, but that's because the height of this hitbox is just 1 pixel in height and it starts at the very top. So that's why it looks weird, but we're gonna add that to them later. We just need to start with one object rather than all at the same time. But yeah, this looks really good. Now comes the question. Are we going to add this part and that part also? Quick answer, no. Then the question is, why are we not adding this or adjusting this to our new collision? And I worked with this like I always do. I always code out the entire episode, then I save the code, put it aside, and then I go back to the code for the last episode, and then we code as a step by step, just to make sure that I know that there is no weird bugs coming up or changing something in the last minute and I have to redo everything. It just makes it easier to do this. The amount of code and checks we need to do to either stand next to a tile or an object, depending on which one is colliding us or which one we are colliding with, does not justify the result. It's simply so much code that it's not worth it. And because of that, I'm not going to add it into the game. Not now at least. It can always be added later, but for now, let's not add it. So what we can do is just to remove it from our playing here. And we can do it like that, and it gets a little bit cleaner. And now, what we need to do is the same thing, but for our buildings. But it will go much quicker because we already understand the process. So let's jump over into our buildings class. And we only have one house, so that's good. And what we want to do here now, we're going to change up our buildings class a little bit. First we're going to change is the hitbox for our doorway is no more. We're going to add something called a point F doorway point, because we actually we really don't need a hitbox, we just need a position or a point in this case, that as soon as the player is touching that point, we teleport. And then we are going to change doorway X and doorway Y. We can probably keep that. And the second two is gonna be hitbox roof and then hitbox floor, just like our object. But these two values we're gonna change to, let's write 20 and 40. So 20 pixels in height and 8 pixels from the bottom to where the actual hitbox starts. Yeah, I think that's gonna be good. So these four values are the position and size on the sprite atlas, but these values are values on the individual sprite. And then of course for our doorway point equals new point F, which is doorway X and doorway Y. But I almost forgot multiplying it with scale multiplier. Get hitbox doorway, no, but public point F, get doorway point, return doorway point. So this one, removing the old one, is gonna throw some errors, but we know where the errors are thrown is where we need to change the code. We're gonna keep the house image, of course, and that is all we need to do in here. I'm gonna run this just so we can get some errors up and quickly be redirected to wherever we need to do the changes. So as we can see, we had add doorway to game app. I don't think we used that one. So we really don't even need this method. So bye-bye. Can remove that one as well. Don't know why it was there. But we do have this create hitbox for doorway. We don't need to do that. Connect to doorways, hitbox. Okay, so we need to start in doorway, because doorway is asking for a doorway hitbox. It needs a point F instead. Doorway point. Then hitbox we don't need, but we can private point F, doorway, not door hitbox, point. And then this dot doorway point equals doorway point. Is player inside doorway? Player intersects. Can take away that, but instead I think you can push two values in. Contains. Yeah, contains, not intersect. All right, fair enough. Dot contains two floats. Yes, we're gonna add doorway point.x, doorway point.y. But we must not forget about camera X and camera Y. Get position of doorway. Why don't we just return it? Doorway point, wherever that now is used in two places. Okay. And yeah, let's head back to our help methods. Now our doorways can be connected. Yeah, that's fair. So we need to ask for not hitbox but point, so not rect but point 1, or rather, yeah, point 1. Maybe I should specify that it's a point F as well. Thought that error looked weird. And then of course point 2, then point 1 and point 2. Fair enough. Create hitbox for doorway. Doesn't sound correct. And this one is also, is it being used? Yes, it's used in there. All right, let's go back to it. The position needs to be the same. Like we want a doorway there, but instead of a hitbox, it's gonna return a point F. So point F. That looks correct. Then just return new point f x plus game constants dot sprite dot size, and then of course y plus game constants dot sprite dot size. Alright, that looks good. Let's head up one more for our last method here. So it's getting a hitbox, but it needs to get a point f, or point is equal to get building type, get hitbox doorway, get doorway point. So now we have that one, and what we do is just to return new point f, point dot x plus x, point y plus y. Simple as that, I think. And we get an error because it still says rect. All right. Let's see if we have any more errors hiding. Launch succeeded. All right. Let's see if I can walk up over the house. There's no blocking here. All right. So that's something we need to take into account as well. Maybe the same as we did with our objects. And the place we're gonna start is just like we did for objects, is inside can we walk here. We can just add objects, and we need one for buildings. So first we're gonna check if GameApp.get buildings array list. If it's not null, then we do the work. First we're going to need the temporary hitbox. Can minimize that. And then we do a for building b GameApp.get buildings array list. If rect f dot intersects b dot get hitbox and temp hitbox, return false. And we might as well copy that, and then we should have up and down, left and right. So here's left and right. We're gonna get some complaints about delta y. We just need camera y. Copy this one, no, but this one again. And it's gonna complain about delta x, but we're just gonna give it current camera x. Now, the same collision for the houses and buildings as they do for our object. And they don't. And why is it not working? The reason why it doesn't work is because of here. Or rather, the special constructor we made for just the buildings. But since our buildings and our objects are so similar, we're just gonna go bye-bye with that one. We're gonna throw some errors, or at least one error, in our building class, because now it needs more than just a position. And we can take a look in our GameObject class to get a reference. And you know what? I'm just gonna copy that. We're gonna change it up a little bit. The position y plus position x. The position x is the same. Position y is not object type, but building type. Get the... Okay. And for some reason, I can't access roof. But if you look in our GameObject, I can access roof for the object. So why can't I do it for the building? Well, duh. I didn't store it. I just asked for it here, but never stored it. So int hitbox roof hitbox floor. And then we say this dot, or rather this dot roof equals roof. This dot floor equals floor. Just in case I ever need it. So now I can get it. And for width, just width, and it's the same there. I didn't store it. So buildings, let's go ahead and add int, No, we can keep it up here. Hitbox height. And hitbox height is this dot hitbox height equals hitbox floor minus hitbox roof times game constants dot sprite dot scale multiplier. And just put those in parentheses to make sure it's the correct calculation. And you know what, let's just add width here as well. Width or hitbox width and hitbox width. And hitbox width is just width times scale multiplier. Alright, I think this is gonna make it much easier. Building type dot hitbox width, building type dot hitbox height. Alright, I think that's gonna make it work. Let's see. Alright, there is some collision here. And that's a collision with that one as well. But there's something going on here. Let's take a look at what that can be. And that problem is, of course, in our draw building, which I forgot to edit. Just like we did up here, we need to edit it here. So minus b dot for building, building type dot get roof. Don't I have roof? Buildings. There we go. No. I have it here, but I can't access it, so let's just add a getter here. So get hitbox roof. Yeah, that's good. Let's see, map manager, hitbox roof. Let's try it again. It's better, but not great. Okay, this is most certainly better, but the other one was not. The roof was good. The floor value probably needs changed. Let's take a look in our GameObjects. It was, the height was 47, so that's 12 in difference from the very bottom of the sprite to where the floor of the hitbox is, or the bottom of the hitbox. So 12. Let's have the same idea for our building. So 64. That's 24, that's double, so say 52, that's also 12. Let's give that a go. And I think that is gonna look better. Yeah, that is good. Alright, so next step is to probably enter the house and see that it still works. We can probably begin in playing to check why. Let's see where we have our update method, some way all the way up here. Check for doorway. Is player on doorway. Doorways is player inside doorway. After looking a little bit, it's clearly the position of the doorway that we never changed. We kept the same values, but they became a point. And 17 and 32 is gonna be inside the hitbox. So we just need to change this into 23 and 38. That is going to be in the middle of the door frame, if you will. So this, I think that is even going to not work. Let's try it. Boink, I got teleported, but it crashed. So let's take a look at all those errors I actually expected, but no point in dealing with them before we actually encounter them. So we have array list size on a null object reference. Alright. Build entity list. Okay, I think I know what it is. Go in here. First we are in here, get the drawable list, and then we go into this method, and then here it crashes. Get drawable amount in GameApp at line 47. And why? Well, this array list might be null. this array list might be null, and so on. What we need to do is to go if building array list is not equal to null. We can copy that for each of those arrays, but make sure that we check each array, building for building, object for object, and skeleton for skeleton. All right, might have another error, but let's start here. Boink, and an error or a crash. What was it this time? Build entity list again. Get drawable list. Okay, so now we have a. Now we're inside. We were inside here. Now we are line 35. Okay, so we just need to check if building array list dot is not equal to null. Then we can get the drawable list. Same for skeleton and object. So skeleton, skeleton, object, object. I just need to make sure we check all the time or every time. All right, let's give this a try. Boink. Another crash. How wonderful. What is it this time? Okay, now we got some. Can walk here left and right. Get tile IDs. Get sprite ID is outside. I gotta say, the reason why there was a offset here when we enter, I managed to spawn without moving right after I spawned in here, which is kind of lucky, but for some reason we're spawning down here. That makes no sense. But if we add the hitbox width and height to the camera, that means that the player is going to spawn up here. But why? Why are we spawning down here in the first place? And it took me a while, but it's right here. Our former looked like, let's see, where is it? Here it is. Our former method looks like this for the hitbox, the XY, and then width and height. And for some reason, I added the width and the height of a hitbox or a tile to the position, which is not correct. It should just be like that or like that, because we're already multiplying it, the tile we want it to spawn and the X we want the hitbox or the doorway to spawn. Because this method, we say we want a doorway at this position or these tiles. So in here we're multiplying the tile with the size, and now boom, we have the position. So there's no need to add an additional tile. That's why we're spawning down here when we should spawn up here, which were very weird why we did, but that's why. So just remove that plus extra size, and we're gonna change the name here. Create point for doorway, and we're gonna call it that too. And then in here, because there are points now, not hitboxes, so should it work better now? Maybe, hopefully. Let's see, I can go here, boink, and I'm inside. What about going out? And I can't go out. Why is that? Probably the last thing we need to fix before all of this is working as intended. And I think we can solve it by just adding 1 pixel to this, not another multiplied, so 10 times 4 plus 1 is times 5. No, by just adding 1 pixel to it, we can actually add it down here, plus 1, plus 1. And that is because of the way we check collision. So let's just go in here and see if my theory is correct. I can enter, I can go up, and I should be able to go. Yes. That is because, let's see, doorway, map manager, no, where is it? Is player on doorway, is a player inside doorway. It's because of this, contains. When we are border with border, It's asking if it's inside the rectangle, not if it's equal. If you just move the point 1 pixel right and 1 pixel down, it's actually inside the rectangle. We might need a better solution later down the road, but for now, this is good enough for a workaround. Phew, that was a big episode. I'm glad it's working now, and I also added some missing values to the objects that didn't have any values besides 00. You can find the code on GitHub to copy all of this repetitive code, or you can pause the video and write it yourself. It's up to you. This is also my first episode since I changed up my membership rewards. My camera on my phone ain't the greatest, but here are my supporters. Tread, Vlad, Hassan Safer Bilir, and Leonard Triberg. I had to shorten a few names, otherwise they would have been too long. But I must say, they look very nice. Thank you guys for watching, take care now, and I hope to see you in the next episode as well. Bye for now.